Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Heroes in a half shell. Turtle power.
What are the best 2D side-scrolling beat-em-ups? Maybe you think of Final Fight, the Simpsons arcade game, or the X-Men arcade game. Personally, for sentimental reasons, I think of Streets of Rage, but objectively, let's be real, you think of those after you think of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Unlike most licensed IPs, TMNT has had a very consistent level of quality in regards to video games. So now we have the TMNT Cowabunga Collection that over-delivers and, well, might actually be a flawless collection. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get into this. Hi guys, DPX here, reviewing today the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection. Before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell and leave a comment, or I will shove an entire poisonous pizza down your throat. The TMNT Cowabunga Collection has a whopping 13 games. To be fair, a few of them are different versions of the same game, but I mean the same game as in same title and all that, but they are quite different. Let me explain. The games here are the TMNT arcade game, TMNT for the NES, TMNT the arcade game, which is, you know, TMNT 2 on the NES, and that's basically an NES port of the arcade game. We got TMNT 3, the Manhattan Project, Turtles in Time for both the arcade and SNES, the Hyperstone Heist, Tournament Fighters for the NES, SNES, and Genesis, Fall of the Foot Clan, Back from the Sewers, and Radical Rescue. This is pretty much exactly what you would expect for a TMNT collection, but actually more. With this collection of games, you get a span of games for the arcade, NES, SNES, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis. And that is awesome. That variety of platforms at display is just amazing. I'll go over what I think of each game. The TMNT arcade game is stellar, and the fact that we actually get to play it on modern platforms now is really cool. Same goes for the arcade version of Turtles in Time, which maybe until Shredder's Revenge, where I think it's kind of neck and neck, Turtles in Time was objectively the best side-scrolling beat-em-up game, and still holds up very well today. Also, a little side note, in the arcade games, obviously you need a quarter in order to play, but on here, you know, you can't put quarters in, so instead of putting in quarters, you press the start button, and you can press start as many times as you want. So basically, in the arcade games in this collection, you're allowed infinite lives. As for the other games, there is the SNES version of Turtles in Time, which is only a teensy-bit slight downgrade from the arcade game. There's also the NES games. We got the original NES Turtles game, which I think we could all agree is kind of the worst game in this collection, so normally it would be filler, but yeah, it kind of had to be here, so I'm not even complaining. But then it steps it up with TMNT 2, the arcade game. Like I said, this is basically an NES port of the original arcade game, but treated as a sequel to the first NES game. So this is the original game, but not as it's a sequel to the other original game that isn't the one this game is based from. Look, I didn't mean to confuse you. This game is really solid, but the best TMNT game on the NES is TMNT 3, the Manhattan Project. The NES has some kinda lame beat-em-ups, but this game manages to be pretty solid. There's also the Hyperstone Heist for the Sega Genesis. This one I feel gets forgotten a lot. I guess it's because TMNT was always synonymous with Nintendo and arcades, not so much Sega, but don't get it twisted, the Hyperstone Heist is a solid game. I noticed this game missing from a lot of Sega Genesis collections, so I'm happy the Hyperstone Heist is here. Then we get some games that I wasn't really thinking would be on here. We get the 3 Game Boy games, Fall of the Foot Clan, Back from the Sewers, and Radical Rescue. These games aren't really ports of any of the NES or SNES games. They are actually brand new games for the Game Boy, and they feel different. Not that that is a bad thing, You know, these are pretty decent games. They don't feel like beat 'em ups though. They're more like platformers, but no matter, cause they are, again, pretty decent, and it is really cool to see the Game Boy games on here. Likewise, I often forget that TMNT had a fighting game, TMNT Tournament Fighters. And what seems bizarre is that there are 3 versions of this game in this collection. But it's not bizarre once you realize that the NES, SNES, and Genesis versions are all pretty different. They all play similar, but their rosters are different, which is a big factor when it comes to fighting games. The SNES and Genesis games are pretty decent, but the NES game is rough. You know why the NES barely has any fighting games? This is why. But it's not like this is filler. Honestly, I feel like this is a perfect lineup of games, even without like Game Boy games or the Tournament Fighters. But those feel like extra treats, you know? You want to play any of these games, you buy this. This is the best way to play every single one of these games, which I don't even think are available elsewhere. Before I even continue on to the next segment, I'm just gonna tell you to buy this collection. This is the other stuff segment, the segment where I touch on other stuff worth mentioning, but not too much to say on. For one, I love the backgrounds and menus for this game. You can tell Digital Eclipse put a lot of love into this just with that. Likewise, the menu music slaps. Seriously. And the cool thing is, this is a song from the 2003 TMNT game. So the Cowabunga Collection is a nod to more than just the retro games. As for any issues, well, not even much of an issue at all. In fact, it's just weird, so I just want to mention it. The order of which these games appear on the menu is very odd. You would think it would be in order of release, but it's really not. It starts with the arcade games, then the SNES games, then the Genesis games, then the NES games, then the Game Boy games. That's just weird to me, and I see it's organized by platform, but still, it's weird that the NES games appear after the SNES and Genesis games. Wouldn't you think that the NES games would appear, you know, in between the arcade games and the SNES? I don't know. Wow, I kind of went off a bit longer about the order of the games on the menu than I thought I would. Again, it doesn't bother me, I just thought it was worth mentioning, because if I'm going to be honest, I don't see anything else really worth complaining about. There is also the Turtles layer, where you get to look at the boxes and manuals for the games in this collection, and it's all very cool. Needless to say, this is one of the best retro collection games I've played in a very long time.
Pizza time!
There are many game companies that make collections for their older games for a quick buck and nothing more. But with the TMNT Cowabunga Collection, you can see the love for these games. Honestly, I'm a bit of a sucker, so I would have just bought this game for the games in the collection alone. But the menus, the filters, the borders, the menu music, the extras, and yes, the games make this 100% worth it. Say what you want about Konami and how little they give a shit. Hell, you would expect them to be one of those companies who makes these collection games for a cheap cash grab. But they have a really good and consistent track record of putting out damn good collection games. And as for Digital Eclipse, let's hope there is no end in sight. This is the first time in a while I'm doing this, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection gets a 10 out of 10 and is a must-buy. Yeah, that was my review for this collection. With this and the Shredder's Revenge, when it comes to video games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has had a very good year, and I think I'm ready to say this. As of game franchise, TMNT is back. Let's hope we get some more TMNT games down the line. Anyways, what did you guys think of the Cowabunga Collection? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Do you like the game? Do you not like the game? Do you have the game? Do you not have the game? And if you don't have the game, do you want the game? Do you not want the game? You should definitely get the game. But anything about the game, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, or I will shove an entire poisonous pizza down your throat. Bye!